Alex here with a video on legal nuts and bolts. This video is going to be on getting explanations from the court's decision. So this is a really hard video for me because it's a really abstract, high level thinking video that I see pretty much in every single case, including my own. People will file things, including me. And it took me a long time to figure this out. People will file things in their child custody case or in any other type of court case. I put this under legal nuts and bolts because it applies pretty much to the whole court system. Or they'll even go to hearings, and they'll come out of a hearing or they'll get a written decision on their motion, and they won't understand what happened. So somebody, this again, I want to stress this was me too. I'm not like a genius or anything. It took me years to figure out what was going on. The court doesn't explain to you analytically and in detail precisely why it came to the conclusion it did. And so it leaves people with all these gaps to fill. And so most I can tell you to not do this. I really can't point you in the right direction as to how you should go into court thinking and how you should deal when you come out of court thinking, but I at the least can tell you what not to do. So when you file these motions and you go to hearings and you come out and you get these decisions, the first thing you have to do is obviously you have to read the written decision carefully. So many people get hung up on what the Supreme Court of Nevada refers to as oral pronouncements from the bench. When the judge says things, and they will say things, in your child custody case, they'll try to scold you, or they'll say both of you have issues, or you should learn how to be better parents. And these stuff really does matter in the sense of they're trying to help you move forward with your life. But it really doesn't matter in two cases. The first is it doesn't matter in a legal sense at all. That kind of fluff doesn't go anywhere in the Supreme Court of Nevada on appeal. They don't care. The second thing is if you're dealing with an abusive person, you pretty much have to ignore all of that because the judges don't understand how personality disordered abusive people think. They don't get that somebody will resort to the most insane measures just to cause you a little bit of inconvenience, and that does include harming their child. And so if you're dealing with this kind of case and the judge is irritating you with what they're saying about how you are both the problem or you're both not communicating, you just have to understand that the judge is kind of giving you a canned answer that they give to everyone. Don't take it personally. When the first thing that helped me was the realization that all that mattered was the what I got out of the court. When I went into court, instead of focusing on how the judge attacked me or said, I wasn't a perfect parent or attributed blame to me, I focused on what is in the order. I had this problem. My ex isn't giving me homework packets. I got this solution. She was ordered to show cause and held in contempt of court. That's what I focus on, not the things that the judge is saying about me. Because you know what? Number one, as I mentioned, it's a canned response that they really just. You have to figure these judges are seeing thousands of cases, and they don't really figure out how to tailor custom responses to each and every one of you. They kind of get a gist of the dynamic of couples, and based on the gist of the vibe they get from you, you're going to get that canned response from them, and you're going to get an order, and that's what you're going to need to focus on. It's sometimes it's kind of hard because people go into court and they want validation and they want the judge to kind of pull a Judge Judy and chew their ex out for all these bad things they did. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But when you're in a really long 8-year long child custody battle, that kind of stuff is such a waste of time and money. Once you get past year 3 or 4, it should become methodical. If you're to the point where you're going to court for emotional reasons, that's bad. Number one, it's expensive. If you're representing yourself, you're going to make a fool of yourself. Um, and number two, you're just not getting anywhere. You're spinning your wheels. So let me get back on sort of the center topic here. Focus on what's coming out of the court's order, on the language of the order. Read it and see, number one, is it when you went into court and presented a problem, does it resolve the problem? And if it doesn't resolve the problem, you need to think about an appeal. And if you do think about an appeal, you need to think about that appeal in the context of the applicable appellate procedure and the applicable appellate standard of review. I did both 2 videos on each of these, so I can at least point you in the direction of how to file appeal and what the standard of review is, and make sure that your appeal isn't based on what the judge said, as far as who was, needing to be a better parent or communicate better. You're going to have to focus on statutes, and you're going to have to focus on whether the judge satisfied those statutes, or whether he didn't, whether he abused his or her discretion in your case. In some cases, um, it just comes down to having a really good judge. Some people get lucky and they just get a judge who's been in there for so many years, and they've seen a lot, and they figured it out. They figured out that some people are weird and they aren't like everyone else, and they don't want to communicate, and they don't want to work together, and they figure this out, and they figure out how to deal with these types of people. And sometimes you just get a judge who's new, and they think that everyone's the same, and everyone's just got to get over their revenge or whatever, and they think that they just need to send you back to the drawing board. Well, that doesn't work. They don't understand that. Another thing is, some judges only think that a person who files a lot of papers has a potential to be abusive. They don't understand that there's a type of abusive person who actually doesn't use the court to hurt you. They instead use everything but the court to hurt you. And so these judges don't understand that their inaction actually plays into a cycle of abuse. They're so worried about catering to an abusive litigant or a vexatious litigant, and like entering all these orders and forcing you to do things, that they're not thinking about the other type of abusive litigant, the one that goes to court and just tries to sort of tell the judge, like, oh, everything's fine, he just won't talk to me. And then outside of court, they're exploiting the fact that the court's not there watching them right now, and they can do all these crazy things to you or your kids. So sometimes it just comes down to the judge being ignorant. The last thing I wanted to say is, when the judge renders a decision, and they render a decision that's against you, or maybe it's not just fully in your favor, um, it's not. Sometimes I notice people will say, my ex said these 3 or 4 lies, or they brought in these false documents or something, and that's why I lost. The judge believed my ex. That's not true. A lot of times I've seen this. Your ex will say things that are crazy, and you'll lose, but not because the judge believed those things. It's because of another thing over here. And sometimes when it's a purely legal issue, and you don't know that it's a purely legal issue, and the judge doesn't tell you, it can seem really unfair. And I didn't realize this until like year 6 or 7. It started to connect with me. The judges aren't explaining to me what they're doing, maybe because I'm a non-lawyer and I have no hope of understanding, at least in their eyes. Maybe because they don't want to say something on the record that can be used against them on appeal. There's all these reasons as to why. But the judge isn't telling you the inner cogs that are turning, the inner legal machinery. I'll bring up an example. I had a friend who they went to terminate somebody's parental rights, and she showed up in court, and the judge asked her um, a few questions, and it was about when the last time was that she communicated with the family, and she was like, I haven't, it's been years because they won't let me. And the judge was like, well, did you send gifts? And she was like, yeah, I did send gifts, but they sent him back every time. And the judge said, okay, I'm going to have to set a hearing on this. So the person thought, oh, that's not fair. My ex said a bunch of lies, and the judge believed her, and that's why he set a hearing. That's not true at all. What happened was, it was a motion, it was a hearing on law in motion. It wasn't an evidentiary hearing. And so what the judge was trying to do is, he was trying to find out if she had raised no legal issues for the court to decide, so that he could rule in favor of the person trying to get the TPR. And when he asked her a question, and she said, I did send gifts and they just got sent back, his efforts to do so failed. What she did was, she raised a genuine issue of material fact Basically, the court needs to ascertain whether that fact that she alleged is true or false. And the only way the court can do that is by setting an evidentiary hearing. So the guy's impression was, oh, the judge believed her and she's a liar and I didn't get a chance to argue that she was lying and he just set a hearing. And it's like, no, that's not what's happening. The court was trying to figure out whether or not it had to even set an evidentiary hearing. And by him asking her those questions, the court was hoping maybe she'll say, no, I didn't send a gift. And then the court could say, well, unfortunately for you, under this statute, I have to terminate your parental rights. I'm not going to set an evidentiary hearing because you have fallen into this statute that says, abandonment is presumed. And, based on everything you're telling me, there's nothing for me to really hear. And so I'm going to grant the TPR. Well, that didn't happen. She alleged something that, if true, is relevant to the case. That's a genuine issue of material fact. There has to be a hearing. So anyway, this might sound kind of crazy, but you need to understand that it might seem to you like a certain thing has triggered another thing. And when you're really early on in your case and you don't know very much about how the law works and stuff, you're going to just be likely to fall into these traps of wrong-headed thinking. And that's kind of what that guy did. And once I explained it to him, he was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I wish the judge would have told me, because if he did, I wouldn't have been so mad. Well, the judges have thousands of cases. They're not thinking I need to explain everything to everyone because they're going to get mad at me. A lot of times they'll explain something to someone and they'll want to argue or say their piece or some people will think the judge can do whatever he wants. A lot of people think that, and they can't. They have to follow statutes, rules, and cases, and they have a boss just like any of us. We go to work and we have a boss. They go to work and they have a boss. Their boss is a Supreme Court. So it's like, they can't do whatever they want. You think you should pause, take a step back, and ask questions when you come out of court and you don't understand what's going on, because you might think something's a certain way and it's just not. So, I'm kind of going back to the beginning of this video where I said it's a frustrating video for me because I can't give you exact answers as to what's going on, but I can at least tell you to avoid this type of thinking, because it can be really depressing and anxiety inducing to just fall into these thoughts that you think the judge doesn't like you, when really the judge doesn't like you or hate you. He's just trying to follow the law. With that, I'll end this video. If you have any questions, I know this is a complicated topic for some people, feel free to ask, and I'll try to help you the best that I can. And sometimes people have specifics, like they'll show me an order and they'll say, what's going on? Go ahead and send me the email. I'll have my email in the description below. And I'll take a look at it and I'll read it and I'll tell you, this is what I think is going on. So anyway, with that, I'll see you guys next time.